What up, dudes? KCDC here. Everybody deserves a pat on the back tonight for making it out. Thanks for coming out and hanging out. Be proud of yourself. You're one step closer to becoming a Louisville Roller Derby, either skater, NSO, or ref. And that's super awesome. And we're all very excited for that. The first thing I wanted to get into was just like the general rules of roller derby. For those of you who don't really even know where to begin with roller derby, I'm just going to kind of break it down into basics so we can kind of get to a place where we're at a good base level to build from. We have two teams. In this example, we have a red team and a green team. You have 4 blockers on each team out on the track at a time. So I'll have the O's represented as the blockers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 red, 1, 2, 3, 4 green, and then we have 1 jammer from each team. Essentially, the point of the jam is to get as many points as you can on your team. The way that you make points in this is your jammer, the one with the star helmet on, will pass the hips of the opposing blocker. So if I'm a jammer and I'm coming up to a blocker and I slide past their hips, I make 1 point. You make 1 point per blocker that you pass per lap around the track. Something to note in that, the first lap doesn't count. The first lap is to figure out who the lead jammer is, the person who gets to call off the jams. So let's say green gets out first. That person is now in lead. They get to now control the game on they now get to control that jam on when it's called off, when it's over, essentially. So they get out, they come around, they pass teammates' hips, and then they have the opportunity to call it off or to keep going. To call off a jam, the jammer waves their hands on their hips, hits their hips a few times, and the ref will call it off. Essentially, that's how it works. You want to get points by passing hips. There are other components in this also, like we have pivots. They're the ones with a little stripe across them. A pivot is somebody who can be a jammer or a blocker, depending on the time. I won't get too into that right now. Just know that they're a part of it. This is roller derby direction. Yeah, so that's pretty much the most basic form of roller derby. 2 teams, you're trying to make points by passing hips. So as a jammer, your job is to get past the blockers, break through the wall, and get around the track. As a blocker, you are there to either A, block the jammer from getting out, create a wall that is impenetrable or, keeps the opposing jammer back, or B, to play offense and get your jammer out. And then a pivot can do one or the other, depending on what's happening during the game. We'll get into it more as we go along, but just to kind of get your mind on where we're headed, that's the game.